Alright, so haven't made any of the review videos for a bit. Apologies on that. Life's been a little bit hectic. Alright, so this one is going to be on the 72-piece color pencil set from Pagos. These, I don't recall if these are oil-based or wax-based. I think they're wax-based. At least they felt that way to me. I've had the set for a while now. I have used it fairly extensively, just in doodling, just to see how it would work. And let me open it up here. As you can see, I have sharpened all of them. And I will say that these pencils do sharpen well. I didn't have any of them that broke. It's actually a pretty set. It's unlike most of the sets. You know, most of them are either a black barrel or a fully colored barrel. These ones are kind of nice in the way they look. One thing I did notice when using them, and hopefully you can see on this, is if you put a little bit too much pressure on them, in other words, the kind of pressure you'd need to burnish, if you have a fine point on it, it's going to break or crumble. Now, the one thing that I really don't like about this is you cannot, maybe you're more skilled and you can, but you cannot get these trays out without a little bit of help. I just use a pair of scissors, and it is the same standard sort of flimsy like trays, but there's the two layers because there are 72 colors. The second layer of pencils, I had found as I was working with them that they had a, I don't know, kind of like an odd feel to some of the pencils, and I realized it was because the wood was not perfectly round. And that said, one of the biggest complaints I have about this set, and maybe you can see this, is that there are probably over a dozen of them that the lead is not centered. So when the lead isn't centered and you sharpen it, as you can see, one side is barely sharpened and the other side is fully exposed. Now you can fix this by sharpening with a knife by hand, but it is a pain in the butt. Alright, so let me get these out of here and out of the way. And what I want to show you next is I did do a Lightfast test on these. And the Lightfast test was started February 15th. And you can tell how long it's been since I have done a video, because I actually ended the Lightfast test on 4/21. So it was a little over 2 months of testing. Now there's more on here than just the Pagos. And so ignore this line here. When I did this one, I actually laid the piece of paper that was blocking down the center so that either side would be exposed to light. And in this center one, for whatever reason, I had to put a little bit of tape to hold it down so that the piece would lay flat and light wouldn't get under it. Now the Pagos colors start here, and they run the whole way through here to the end. And one thing that was very interesting about the Pagos pencils was that they are in perfect numerical order. So I actually started in the bottom tray where the two metallics are, and that's 72, 71, 70, so on. They are all in exact order. But as you can also see, after just 2 months, there's significant fading in many of the colors. As expected, the pinks and the reds had some really significant fading. And considering that this was just a 2-month Lightfast test, that tells me that more than likely none of these pencils are very Lightfast. There was also some fading in the oranges and the yellows, in their flesh tone. Let me move this so you can see the blues and the purples. Also had some fading, not quite as bad as the pinks and reds, The greens also had a bit of fading, and surprisingly, some of the grays and the browns also faded. And as you can see here, these red browns literally became just brown. So I think that they must have mixed the pigment together, a brown and a red, and the red, it faded. Just like the reds over here faded. So the red faded out and the brown pigment stayed behind. Now this particular red brown, let me see if I can get that under there. This one didn't fade a lot, but again, it was just 2 months. So considering that all of them faded to some extent, I really wouldn't trust these with Lightfast tests. And even their metallics, as you can see here, they also faded somewhat. Black, if you tilt it here, maybe I can get you to see it a bit. Even the black had a very slight amount of fading, and the grays. So a 2-month Lightfast test and that much fading, I would say don't use these pencils for any kind of professional work or work that you want to sell. For a sketchbook, it would be fine. Now what I did for this review video is I just took a standard coloring book page, because that's what most people are going to use these on, and I started in on it. I didn't finish it so that you can see how you're able to get actually some pretty rich layering and coloring with these pencils. As you can see, I was able to actually get a lot of punch with the darker colors. There's probably 7 or 8 different colors layered over top of each other in these dark areas to get that nice color to just really be alive. And that's one thing with colored pencil, is you never really just want to go with a straight single color. If you can layer a lot of colors together, it's just going to make a much more interesting and vibrant color for your darks. In other words, you don't want to just go in and make the darks black or a dark green. I think I have brown, green, some brighter green in there, olive green. But you can see that they did layer pretty well, considering that this is just a cheap coloring book page. And the same thing on the feathers here. You can see that they layered fairly nicely. So the performance of these pencils, the end result in a coloring book, was actually quite good. I can't really complain about it so far as what it looks like. Now, the feel of the pencils and the paper, they weren't consistent. Some of the colors were a lot scratchier than others. Some of them were fairly smooth. Some of them felt waxier than others. Some of them drier. Obviously, they were the ones that were scratchy. But overall, they did pretty well. Now, as I recall, I believe that set was a little bit pricier than some of the discount sets on Amazon. And for that reason, I would say that, you know, if you're a pencil collector like I am, sure, they'd be worth getting just to have them. But other sets out there that are inexpensive and less expensive than these, and even with more colors, will give you very similar results. Bottom line is, they are not Lightfast at all. After 2 months, nearly every single color was faded, some of them very significantly. And we can bring that back so that you can see that again. Some of these are practically gone in the pink and the reds. But the performance, so far as how nicely they lay down on the cheap coloring book paper, is good. So if you want them for coloring books, if you want them for in your sketchbook, they'd be a good pencil to have. I personally won't buy them again just because there are less expensive sets out there that aren't Lightfast that do the same thing.